Well, it happened very sneakily, albeit noisily, over the Muslim long holiday. And there's no question in my mind at all that and we're talking, by the way, about one of the remarkable landmarks of Brazilian architecture in Lagos, which in fact is Victor Olaya's home. Yes, family home. They live there, and efforts have been made for quite a while, long before Lagos at 50 preparations and celebrations, to preserve a number of these landmarks. It began all the way back since Governor Fashola's tenancy in the government house. A lot, in fact, has been done about preserving some of these architectural landmarks. And one of the most prominent has been this Olaya home, right on Tinubu Square, a famous place. And in fact, one which was already incorporated into the project of the Lagos at 50 celebrations for preservation, and as part of what we call the landmark, the Heritage Trail, in which returning Afro-Brazilians and just blacks who are interested in the history of Africa, not just Nigeria, would be taken. And we've been working, in fact, in close collaboration with the Brazilian Consulate General. In fact, I hear that she burst into tears when she heard that this thing on which she'd worked so hard had been just bulldozed like that. In addition, Goethe Institute, that is the German, represent the German government, had become interested in this project. I had a meeting with the new director of Goethe Institute, who assured me that the German government had actually become interested and was ready to participate materially in the preservation and restoration of a number of these landmarks. Well, can you just imagine the shock which we all underwent when just towards the very end of the Muslim holiday. When I first heard about it, I said, no, it's impossible. Nobody's going to touch it. And Debo Cotton, who was also involved in it, so returning a Nigerian, at this time American Nigerian, who've been working with us on the preservation of these landmarks and the history of the Afro-Brazilians. Sent me a message saying, you won't believe this, but I'm afraid that Olaya House has been bulldozed. I said, wait a minute, I just make sure, go and take photographs and send it to you, because I don't believe anybody would touch such a remarkable land. Also, the home of, family home of one of the greatest musicians Nigeria has ever produced. But I'm afraid it was true. If anybody had told me that anyone outside Boko Haram, with its pathological hatred for culture and history, land like that, anybody outside the Boko Haram lunatics would touch a building like that, and so sneakily, I would have said, impossible, it wouldn't have happened. But they knew what they were doing. Obviously, I haven't got all the details yet, but unquestionably, it's the whole issue of short-term gains by land developers. That's I sent a letter today, in fact, to the governor, because I'm sure the government was not involved. This is something between, where the family actually comes in, collaborates or not. I have no idea yet, because this is a recent, event happening. And I know that Dr. Ambody is away at the United Nations. But when he comes back, he's going to find a letter awaiting him on his desk from Lagos at 50 Planning Committee, And but as a human being, not only just as a cultural, person, history conscious and so on, but just the- to wipe out, just to create such a gap, not only physically but in the history of any people, that takes some nerve and some indifference and real callousness. And I hope as soon as the governor comes back, he's going to look into this. But more importantly, and this is what Lagos at 50 has taken on, more importantly, we have to make sure that nothing else disappears in this way on the heritage trail. Otherwise, by the time the climax of the festival is taking place, you're going to have a gap-toothed nation with all sorts of holes in the smile, the welcoming smile, that gaps of teeth which should not be there. And that's a crime against culture. Frankly, from my immediate inquiry, the government knows nothing about this. I think it's like land deals which take place between private parties and so on. But the people who are involved, I'm 100% certain, know of the effort being made to preserve that building, among others. As far as funding is concerned, yes, there are serious problems about funding. And as Ambode said at the beginning, and I agree with him 100%, this funding should come from the private sector. In a time of recession, one would be embarrassed, frankly, me included, to learn, to be involved in any mammoth expenditure. Culture is, for me, not a byproduct of human society. No, it's central to. Even so, when you come to a situation of hunger and so on, you minimize on even important aspects of society like culture. So I can understand some of the difficulty, but at the same time, the government just must find some way. I mean, we reduce the vision, we reduce the details, but certain minimal things must go on in preparation for the actual climax, and that's where the difficulty is. Many people think, what they hear, cultural celebration of this or that. All they think of is dancing and hula hula skirts and pop music jamborees and all the various icons and Nollywood and so on. But no, to be able to leave some tangible products behind, which will continue to remind the citizens, the people, that yes, this came as landmarks of a certain landmark. That for us in the community is far more important. Having said that, I don't want to make a case for the government. The government must actually get its act together financially. One way, whether they're going to borrow, steal, or whatever, something dramatic has to happen so that the project, even though it's shrinking a little, that the substance of it remains. I had my reasons for not wanting to talk about it at the time. In fact, I was very pleased when I heard from a section of the press that we met for just 2 minutes. But if we met for 2 minutes, why are they asking me what do you talk about in 2 minutes? But it was okay. We both have planes to catch, but let me just say, first of all, why? I was the one who initiated the meeting because I had an urgent appeal from the NDA,
the Niger Delta Avengers.
Okay. Who said they were willing, and in fact that they were close to embarking on a ceasefire, but that they needed the government to respond in a very positive way to a meeting over the grievances. Now, I knew already that President Buhari himself had met, at least according to my information, had already met some of the spokespeople of the Niger Delta Avengers, and I don't like their name, by the way, but that's beside the point. And so I really sent a message, and President Buhari immediately made time for us to meet. And my position to him was that this is an issue which should be treated holistically. It's not just we shouldn't wait until people take to arms in one form or the other before addressing certain social anomalies, social grievances, dissatisfaction, sense of alienation, etc., no matter what. My position remains that the Delta insurgency and restlessness is an integral part of a certain dissatisfaction with the internal arrangements, political, socio-political arrangements of the nation. In other words, for me, I just see a certain aspect of the call for restructuring, which, however, because of the peculiar history of the Delta region in relation to others, has given rise to a militarism, and which surges again and again. And so we had a very, I believe, positive discussion on that. In fact, I remember telling him that, look, you already, each time you say that Nigerian sovereignty is non-negotiable, you or Obasanjo or Gowon or you military people, the moment you start talking to insurgents, you're already negotiating the Nigerian sovereignty. So let's move away from the rhetoric and get practical. So it was along those lines that we had our conversation, not only on the Delta region issue, but on the Chibok girls, on corruption, on a number of other peripheral issues. And I find it quite an interesting respondent, shall we say, to a number of issues. Naturally, areas of disagreement, but a very frank and cordial, and I think positive discussion that we had. That I didn't want to talk to the press before, simply for the simple reason that I called that meeting for a different purpose. And when I invite people to a press briefing, I tell them what I want to talk about. They cannot dictate to me what I will talk about and when I talk, and when I want to talk about certain issues. And I must say this, that I was disgusted by a reportage by a supposedly respectable Nigerian journal who said I was about to speak on that subject, and then that my wife sent me a signal and I will do. I think that's a sickening confection, which in fact disgusted, I was relieved to find, a number of the journalists there, because they phoned me and they said they're taking it up without press. I think people should be very serious. When I get up to go and talk, I find time, ask the president, for time to talk to an issue. I weigh the nature of the discussion and I decide when I wish to speak about that meeting and what aspect I felt would be proper for me to talk about. And if the press are frustrated by expecting something which I never promised them, they shouldn't come and start lying against family members, against me. I was about to talk and
you got pinched.
My wife winked at me. We called the meeting because some youths were about to be sent on the platform of the Wole Soyinka Foundation to Lebanon for a crash cultural cause. on international relations, Lebanese history, Lebanon in Africa, and so on. And I felt this was important, an initiative with Sallah Institute in Lebanon to talk. And if I don't want to talk about my meeting with the president at that time, we should just wait. I mean, what advance would the nation have made if I had spoken on that day rather than now? I don't share the same time tempo with the media. I know they have to do their job, but I wish to appeal to them. They should not lie. They should not. I was really, really disgusted and disappointed. The man has, they say he's taciturn, and I'm sure he is. Then he must have a taciturn sense of humor, which expresses itself in non-taciturn ways. Let me tell you that much. He has a sense of humor, very, very modern sense of humor. So it was not a dry as dust meeting at all. We talked as two human beings, interested in, and concerned by certain critical issues of the nation. And that's the way I believe